Hi everyone, welcome to Torah on Demand. I'm Rabbi Yael Ridberg. The book of Leviticus teaches a kind of scrutiny of behavior to show how ordinary actions can be raised to extraordinary proportions while maintaining their humanity. Parashat Kedoshim highlights this theme in a collection of laws called the Holiness Code. Holiness is difficult to define except by comparison to what is profane or ordinary, which we do every week at Havdalah when we acknowledge and bless the separation between Shabbat and the rest of the week, between the ordinary and the extraordinary. Human beings should act and behave in such elevated ways to emulate the divine, and holiness comes from the collective imitation of such divine attributes. At the heart of the matter is a collection of verses in this week's parashah, Leviticus chapter 19, verses 17 and 18. Don't hate your kinsmen in your heart. Reprove your kinsmen, but incur no guilt on their account. Don't take vengeance or bear a grudge against your countrymen, and love your neighbor as yourself. The last part of the verses, love your neighbor as yourself, is the rule that people remember and considered the greatest commandment of all, according to the rabbis. But is such love really possible? When read together, the commandment to love one's neighbor as oneself is only possible once the three preceding commandments are followed. Love, then, is predicated on an absence of hate, by offering a rebuke to someone with perspective and no further guilt, and without vengeance or grudge-bearing. When one is able to live by the first three maxims, only then might it be possible to love another as oneself. The Torah teaches that we are to love our neighbor, but it does not command the extent of that love. The genuine character of that love is what offers the potential to experience holiness, and it's not a suggestion, but a law for all time. The Torah gives us two additional obligations to love. One, ve'ahavta et hager, our obligation to love the stranger in Deuteronomy, and ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, also in Deuteronomy, to love your God. The late Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel taught that all observance is training in the art of love. To forget that love is the purpose of all mitzvot is to vitiate their meaning. These commandments, therefore, present in our families, in our community, and we are commanded to know that our own self-worth comes before we can ever offer our love to others. Our humanity is tied up in our capacity to give and receive love, and we don't have to love another as much as we love ourselves, but we must love another because they are like us, another human being in the world. We know it is sometimes harder to love the neighbor or the stranger whose race or culture, gender, sexuality, or religion is different from our own. That's why the commandments to love the self, the neighbor, and the stranger come from an understanding of what we experienced as neighbors and strangers to others who did not love us. Loving the self must lead to loving the neighbor, which must lead to loving the stranger and ultimately the divine source of love itself. To these commandments we are summoned to obey and to remember with all of our heart. Shabbat Shalom. Thanks for joining me. See you next time.